everyone, well, let's continue this Halloween Horror Fest. Still on movies, and this time, well, it's gonna be something a little bit different that I haven't really done before. Crappy horror films and their superior prequels. Yes, we're talking about not one, but two movies that were crap that ended up getting superior prequels that actually outdid them. And that's not very common to see in films nowadays. We'll start with stop numero uno, because we're obviously going chronological here, Ouija. Based off the famous Hasbro board game that most people obviously can never stop talking about when trying to summon spirits, even though the spelling is a bit weird. I mean, it doesn't even look like it's spelled Ouija, it looks like it's spelled Ouija, but let's not get too carried away here. Yeah, this film was a flop. It basically had your typical cliche characters, you know, mostly girls and stuff, getting tormented by demons, and typical cliche jump scares, and I'm sorry to say, but this one was boring. Even for an hour-and-a-half runtime, it just was not worth the $10. And what'd you expect when Michael Bay produces this film? I mean, he doesn't exactly have the best track record. Yeah, he's the typical most hated director in Hollywood, or at least the top 5 most hated directors, because he butchered 2 franchises by either directing or producing them that most people grew up with during the 80s and 90s. And, well, very few of his films are actually good, and not to mention, he has had a bad history with producing those horrendous horror film remakes that are pretty unneeded. And this one is no exception either. What more do you expect? Yes, it has the same actress that makes a cameo, you know, from the Insidious movies, but it doesn't help the awfulness, and it just didn't help this movie in general. Few jump scares, but nope, sorry. This one, I can pretty much snooze on. So, Wii Remote will be motion plus down, and the Wii Remote down. I give it credit for a few scares and stuff, but still didn't entertain me one bit. So, yeah, when I heard that obviously they were doing a prequel 2 years later, I was like, wow, really, Universal? I mean, there were advertisements for this, and different actors, and actresses, I should say. Hell, even Henry Thomas, yeah, you probably remember him as Elliot from E.T., is going to be in this. And I didn't think much of it. I thought it was going to flop, but much to my surprise, wow, it was good. Even after hearing all the positive reactions on this film, I was surprised. Though it did kind of bomb at the box office, because I guess the first one left a bad taste in people's mouths, myself included. And, well, yeah, it wasn't bad at all. The child actress was pretty good. There were a couple of quirky moments and a few slow parts here and there, but for the most part, yeah, it was really convincing. Obviously, this time around, it was about a family, you know, single mother and 2 daughters that's trying to keep their house and everything like that, so they try to scam people with fake seances, and eventually they get the Ouija board. And not to give too much away, I wouldn't dare spoil it. It obviously leads up to this crappy movie, and yes, there's even an after-credits scene, but for the most part, ignore this one, go watch this one. That's all I can say. So, my final verdict on this one, Wii Remote Wii Motion Plus up, and a plain Wii Remote up. Surprisingly good and surprisingly scary. So, Part 2, the Annabelle movies. Yes, that scary Annabelle doll, which we all know is not exactly like the real one. The real one is obviously a, you know, more of a Raggedy Ann doll. They obviously changed it in the Conjuring movies to give it more of a scary look to it, and yes, it is scary. And they made a prequel specifically about the doll, you know, and yes, I reviewed this movie a couple years ago. I ain't got much to say. It kind of sucked. I was disappointed with it, and, well, what do you expect when you got the same director who did Mortal Kombat Annihilation? You can't expect a whole lot out of it. And, yeah, it pretty much failed in most ways. Few scary moments like the basement scene and everything like that, but it's like we've seen this kind of stuff before, you know, with demons. I mean, there's still so many of these kind of movies being made nowadays, and it's getting ridiculously tiring nowadays. So, yeah, not much to say. It's a pretty bad movie. For a few scares and everything like that, I don't think it's as bad as the first Ouija movie, but it's still pretty bad. 2 Wii Remotes down on this one. Doll scary, but this movie, not as much. So, I didn't expect much after hearing there was going to be Annabelle 2, which originally was supposed to be the title of this movie. after seeing the trailer and nothing more than a kid getting possessed by the doll, you know, and what it looks like the mother walking in with the Holy Cross trying to, well, do an exorcism, I guess, and I was like, wow, really? We've seen this so many times in films before, and, well, after delay, because the trailer premiered almost basically a year before it came out in 2016, and then it was originally supposed to come out in May of 2017, the following year, but then, of course, got delayed till August, because, well, I guess they wanted to make sure the movie was going to be good. And not to mention the title was changed to Annabelle Creation. I really thought this one was going to suck. I didn't think much of it, but wow. Once again, they have proven that a prequel can outdo its original crappy sequel. Or, well, original first film, that is. Again, it has the same actress, surprisingly, and yes, I know I did include this on my top 10 best movies of 2017 list, or at least as an honorable mention, because, yeah, it was surprisingly effective. Yes, there's some slow parts in this film. The beginning's a little slow. Obviously, it takes place in the house, and yeah, I was questioned to how, when it started out in the first half, how it was going to meet up with the first film. Not that I really gave a shit about that, you know, continuity-wise, but yeah, it was a bit questionable of how it was going to meet up with it and connect with that story. But yeah, it's connected with it pretty well. It was full of a couple surprises here and there. The child actors were really good in this film. And yeah, as I said, it stars that same child actress, Lula Wilson, from the Ouija prequel. And yeah, she did pretty good in this film. I was surprised with this one. You know, it defied expectations and, well, gave us a good scare. Maybe not for the most part, but it was effective. And yes, as you can guess, not to give too much away, it met up with, once again, the original first film. But, and yeah, there actually is not only a mid-credit scene, but there's also, of course, an after-credit scene. So yeah, I guess they're going Avengers on this, not to really compare it to those. And yeah, as we know, the other spin-off of the Conjuring series, The Nun, has been out for over a month now. To be short and sweet to the point, it was okay. That's about it. Just okay. So, there you have it. Shortest, quickest review on that one. Not good, not bad, just okay. And another thing, Annabelle 3, seriously? I thought it ended just fine with this one. Unless Hollywood can pull the magic hat trick. And yes, there is a Conjuring 3 coming out, I believe either next year or the year after. Let's just hope James Wan can really pull the magic hat trick and keep this series alive and going. But, not to get too carried away, this one was pretty effective, and once again, it outdid itself. Rockin' Weird Mode V-Motion Plus up, and deploying Weird Mode up. You scared me this time, Annabelle. So, till next time, keep watching.